because you got to go to the emotional layer with everything that happens in your physical body, especially once you become aware of it. Then it's like the body goes, oh, great, you're listening. So now we're gonna message you even more. As true long-term healing is never just physical, in my experience. In my experience, I'm aligned with the Aboriginals of Australia and many other Indigenous people who say, the body is used by the higher self to message us and get our attention when we're not listening in any other ways, or perhaps it's a really complex message, right? So, and maybe there's something in us that needs to walk a healing journey rather than just being given all the information we need in a dream, for example. So in those ways, the higher self, the spiritual self, uses the physical body to message us and to kind of force us to walk through the real deeper healing that we need to change our lives, because we're so resistant to change. I mean, we've almost killed our planet and we're still not willing to change. That's how resistant us humans are to change. So the other thing is to just really embrace the physical body and the symptoms of the physical body as messages from our higher self, our deeper self, our wiser self, of what needs to shift and change in our lives. And that may be a relationship, it may be a living situation, it may be a work, a career, a purpose. What are you doing on this planet situation? It might be healing and resolving past or childhood trauma that your higher self knows this is actually destroying your tissues. You have to go back and you have to heal and release these memories. Like there's so many ways that we can, when we view healing in a holistic manner, there's so many pieces to that. There's generational and ancestral trauma, right? Sometimes your symptom might be related. This is what happened with a guy who came to work at my barn. So he arrived and I have to ask the horses, because horses are pure energy and they work on energy only. So if you think you're fine, but they're looking at your energy body, they know you're not fine, right? And this is why horses are used now with war veterans and autistic children, developmentally disabled children, leaders, people, CEOs of companies, because the horses will tell them right away what's wrong with their leadership style and how they're actually a bad leader. And they'll tell them faster than any human, and you can't fake it once the horses tell you something, because you've either got to shift it or they're not going to change their response to you. And you can't say, well, that's just you're making stuff up. No, it's a horse. It doesn't have an agenda. So anyway, this fellow came to work at my barn to come help out. And I always have to ask the horses, is this person okay to be here? And I just noticed them kind of watching him like this, just carefully, just kind of watching him. And so the third day he came for training, he arrived before me. And so he'd actually gone in with the herd. And I got there a few minutes later and he had a big red mark on his leg. And I'm like, and he looks at me and he says, Montaro bit me. And I was like, because Montaro's my lead, my herd guardian, very wise horse. He's never bitten anyone like that. And I looked at Montaro and I'm like, Taro, what's going on? And he says to me, he says he has an entity attached to that leg. And he says, you have to remove it or he can't be here. And I was like, now what do I do? This is like teenager. He could be like an evangelical Christian for all I know. And I have to tell him he's got an entity attached to his leg and we have to remove it. But it was like, well, he can't be here. Get rid of it. That can't exist in our space. So I just said, so Montaro says, and then we went into it and he was actually totally open. So it turns out, making a long story short, this energy entity attachment on his right leg was a generational ancestral thing. And he went back and he realized, oh, my dad's had a limp. Like his right leg just has never worked properly. Then he goes back and he talks to his parents. His grandfather had the same problem with his right leg. So this was a thing that had come down the generational line, and the horses were like, that thing needs to go, right? So that's another aspect of healing. So for this fellow, he was like 3 or 4 or 5 generationals down from wherever this thing originated in his family, but he was given the opportunity to heal it, to release it, to bring healing to his entire family line, 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, you know? So we really have to get this perspective that the body is always advocating for our wholeness. So if the body is displaying something, or you know, the higher self is speaking through the body, or the body is malfunctioning because you have an energy attachment or an entity is in, like, that needs to heal. It needs to be released. It needs to be brought into wholeness. So Patsy says, I'm joining hospice and just finished reading a fascinating article on the wounded healer and how our pain can become our purpose. Love this concept, given my life experiences and desire to serve. Yes. Yeah. The wounded healer is a very powerful archetype. And Carolyn Mace talks about this in her work as well. And then don't forget, Patsy, I don't know if the book, your article went into it, but there's a shadow side to the wounded healer, right? So where does the wounded healer decide to stop being wounded, right? And to then, because healing and teaching and serving from the place of the wounded healer is very powerful, right? No one's denying that. You can do a lot of good and it's really powerful. But in terms of your personal evolution to wholeness, when are you ready to leave the wounded healer and say, that was then, and now I'm ready to evolve into full wholeness, and I can offer healing and hope and powerful processes from a place that's no longer wounded, from a place that is whole, that is complete. But of course, I retain all that compassion and all that empathy that I brought with me through the journey. So that's the shadow side of the wounded healer. And maybe that's related to your ferritin levels, right? Because that's a drain. That's keeping you small. That's keeping you weak. So maybe the wounded healer needs to evolve into the strong whole healer. And then what's the tension between those two concepts within you, right? Where's the yes, but? Where's the fear? Who will I be if I evolve from the power of the wounded healer to the strength and wholeness of the whole healer? So if you have a physical symptom that's tenacious or persistent and is not responding normally to what would normally heal that physical symptom, that's a flashing red sign to go into the emotional, psychological, and spiritual aspects of what the message your body is trying to deliver you might be. So you look at the symptom and you look at its characteristics, right? So for low hemoglobin, you look at, where am I draining or losing or tamping down my life force energy? Where am I afraid to be my strongest, most powerful self? Where, if I come into my full strength and vibrancy, where is that going to cause issues with relationships? Or maybe I won't be able to bear the job I'm currently in because I can only stand doing what I'm doing when I'm weak and struggling. So there's always going to be this, like, almost like a matrix of things that will feed into that physical symptom. And unpacking that is vital to receiving the message that the body's trying to give you through the symptom. Because Until you receive the message and all the message threads, the body cannot release the physical symptom. So this is a completely holistic, mind, body, spirit integrated way of viewing any physical symptom or injury that is present in the physical body. And it's a fascinating journey, and one that is well worth going into using tools like laser tapping, craniosacral at level 2 or higher, hypnotherapy, booking a session with a healing intuitive, someone who can look in your body and instantly say, look, there's this energy cord coming out of your lower back. Look where let's follow it. Let's see where it's going. Oh, look, it's going to a belief or an expectation that someone else has put on you and you've received and you've taken it on. Oh, it's going to this relationship over here. This person is actually siphoning energy from you. So there's many, many things. And when you open up to viewing physical symptoms in this way, it's amazing. And it's so positive, and it just makes your whole life and experience of life on this planet so much richer and more enjoyable and more fun and more interesting. So I know it can be intimidating, possibly frightening, to agree to step into life in this way. But if we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, why have we incarnated? What's the purpose of having a body? Why have we chosen to be here with this, right? It's dense, it's right? Why don't we go into that? Why don't we embrace all those levels of our being and all those levels of our existence and move into that fully connected, holistic, integrated matrix view of our existence on this planet? Come over to my lasertapping.com website and try a free session with me on how to set healthy boundaries and how to feel okay saying no, so that you can learn how to protect your energy and protect your health and give yourself that space to really begin healing.